What if I told you the most important piece of gear in your ice fishing sled is also your worst enemy? Today we're talking about your ice auger. Not about sharp blades or battery life, but about the one thing nobody talks about, the noise. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you'll look at drilling a hole in the ice in a completely different way. We're going to uncover the invisible shockwave you're sending through the water, and why it might be the single reason your expensive flasher is showing you a blank screen. Do you think a little noise really matters to a fish under 2 feet of ice? Let me know in the comments right now, because I think the answer is going to shock you. Picture this. You get to the lake, it's a perfect day. You've got your spot picked out. You fire up the auger, drill a few holes, and get set up. Then, nothing. You wait, and you wait. You mark a fish or two, but they're not interested. Sound familiar? For generations, the old-timers told us, just drill the hole and get to fishing. The noise doesn't matter. We've all heard it. We've all done it. We treat the auger like a simple tool to get us through the ice, but we rarely, if ever, consider it part of our fishing strategy. This mindset has led us to a simple and potentially fatal routine. Find a spot, drill aggressively, and then wonder why the bite is slow. We blame the weather, the bait, the time of day. Everything except the first thing we did when we got there. Let's kick things off with a big one, a piece of advice we've all gotten from some old-timer on the ice. You fire up your gas auger, and it screams like a chainsaw, and the guy in the shanty next door just chuckles and says, "Don't worry about it. Fish are used to noise." But are they really? Think about what a fish's world is actually like under the ice. It's a world of muffled, natural sounds. The groan of the ice shifting, the subtle tap of a minnow against a rock, the faint swish of another fish swimming by. These are the sounds they've evolved over millions of years to understand. Then suddenly, from directly above, comes this violent, high-frequency mechanical scream, or a deep, ground-shaking rumble. That is not a natural sound. It's not a boat motor in the summer they might get accustomed to. It's an alien invasion in their quiet, insulated world. Saying they're used to it is like saying a deer in a quiet forest is used to a gunshot right over its head. It might hear noises, but it knows the difference between a falling leaf and a threat. Your auger is not a falling leaf. To really get a grip on this, we need to stop thinking like we're standing on the ice and start thinking like a fish swimming underneath it. The biggest difference is the medium. We live in air, which is not very dense. Sound travels through it, but it loses energy pretty fast. You can yell at your buddy 100 yards away, and he might hear you, but the sound is faint. Water, on the other hand, is incredibly dense. It's about 800 times denser than air. This means it's a fantastic conductor of sound and vibration. It's like the difference between tapping on a wooden table versus tapping on a pillow. The table carries that tap instantly and clearly to every corner. The pillow just absorbs it. The water under the ice is a giant wooden table, and your auger is the hammer. Every vibration, every sound wave, is transmitted with ruthless efficiency. It doesn't just fade away into the distance like it does in the open air. It travels far, and it travels fast, carrying a message with every pulse. Let's put some numbers on this to really drive it home, but keep it simple. We all know the old trick for telling how far away a storm is. You see the lightning, and you count the seconds until you hear the thunder. That's because light is almost instant, but sound in air moves relatively slowly, about 1,100 feet per second. Now let's take that same sound and put it in the water. In water, sound doesn't travel at 1,000 feet per second. It travels at nearly 5,000 feet per second. That's more than 4 times faster. Let me say that again, more than 4 times faster. This means a fish doesn't have time to process where the sound is coming from. It's not a distant rumble that gets closer. It's an instant, violent event that happens everywhere at once. Imagine sitting in your living room, and suddenly, every window in your house shatters at the exact same millisecond. You wouldn't be curious. You'd be terrified. That is what a fish experiences. The danger signal arrives instantly, from all directions, with no warning. So how does a fish even perceive this instant attack? It's not just with its ears. Fish have a secret weapon, a sense that we humans just don't have. It's called the lateral line. You've seen it on fish you've caught, that faint line running down their side from the gills to the tail. Most anglers think it's just a marking, but it's actually an incredibly sophisticated sensory organ. It's a system of pores and nerve endings that detects the tiniest movements, vibrations, and pressure changes in the water. It's how a predator fish can sense a struggling minnow from 20 feet away in total darkness. It's how a school of baitfish can move in perfect unison, feeling the water pressure from their neighbors. This lateral line is what makes them so tuned in to their environment. It's their early warning system, their radar, and their GPS all rolled into one. And it is extremely sensitive to unnatural vibrations. Now, here's the critical part. That lateral line doesn't hear sound in the way we do. It feels it. It's designed to pick up on pressure waves and vibrations. And what is the sound from your auger? It's a massive, powerful vibration ripping through the water column. The fish isn't just hearing a noise in the distance. Its entire body is being hit with this pressure wave. Think of it like this. If you're standing next to a speaker at a rock concert, you don't just hear the music, you feel the bass thumping in your chest. That's a tiny taste of what a fish feels from your auger. Its whole world is vibrating with an alarm signal. This signal is sharp, it's aggressive, and it's completely alien. It's not the gentle pulse of a fin or the soft thud of something falling into the water. It's a mechanical, high-energy event that the lateral line interprets in only one way: danger. Get out, get down, or get eaten. Let's talk specifics, starting with the modern favorite, the electric auger. They're light, they're clean, and we think of them as quiet. Compared to a gas auger, they are. But quiet to our ears in the open air is not quiet to a fish's lateral line under the water. Electric augers produce a very high-frequency, high-pitched whine. Think of a dentist's drill. It's not necessarily loud, but the frequency is what makes you clench your teeth. In the animal kingdom, high-frequency, sudden sounds are often distress signals. Think of a rabbit squealing when it's caught by a predator. These sounds trigger an immediate fight-or-flight response. That high-pitched scream from your electric auger, cutting through the ice, is broadcasting a signal of distress and panic. It's a sound that tells every predator fish to be on alert, and it tells every prey fish that something violent is happening right above them. It's a very effective signal, just not the kind we want to be sending. So, what does that high-frequency signal really mean to a fish? To a prey animal like a perch or a bluegill, that sound is a direct signal of an attack. It's sharp, piercing, and unnatural. Their instinct isn't to investigate. It's to either flee the area entirely or to lock down and bury themselves in the nearest weed bed or piece of cover. They go into survival mode. For a predator fish like a walleye, pike, or lake trout, it might initially trigger some curiosity. But the sound is coming from above, a direction predators rarely attack from. It's also sustained and mechanical, not like a struggling fish. This confusion quickly turns to caution. They become wary, suspicious. The easy meal signal isn't there. Instead, it's a signal of something big, powerful, and unknown, directly overhead. So even if they don't spook and run, they become much less likely to bite. Their guard is up. They're no longer relaxed and feeding, they are on high alert. Now let's move on to the old workhorse, the gas auger. This is a completely different beast. We're no longer talking about a high-frequency whine. We're talking about a low-frequency, guttural roar and rumble. If the electric auger is a scream, the gas auger is an earthquake. This low-frequency vibration penetrates the water and the lake, bottom even more effectively than high frequencies. It's a sound that a fish feels in its bones. It's not just a surface-level disturbance. It's a deep, ground-shaking event. Think about the feeling when a huge truck rumbles past your house. The windows vibrate. You can feel it in the floor. Now imagine your house is made of water, and that truck is driving directly on your roof. That is the world of a fish when a gas auger fires up nearby. It's a complete disruption of their environment. This isn't a signal of a small-scale attack. This is a signal of a major, large-scale threat that shakes the very foundation of their world. What does that low-frequency rumble from a gas auger signal to fish? Unlike the sharp panic of a high-frequency sound, this is a signal of overwhelming power. It's the kind of vibration associated with massive, dangerous events in nature, like an avalanche or an ice shove. There is nothing in a fish's evolutionary playbook that says a deep, sustained rumble from above means food. Absolutely nothing. Instead, every instinct screams danger, big, get away. This kind of disturbance is more likely to scatter fish over a much wider area. They won't just move a few feet. They might evacuate the entire structure you're trying to fish. The walleye that were cruising the top of a reef might drop down into deep water. The crappie suspended in a basin might scatter and hug the bottom. The gas auger basically takes a sledgehammer to the calm environment you're trying to fish in, and the fish react accordingly. They run for cover from the perceived cataclysm. Okay, so what about the silent option? The good old-fashioned hand auger? Surely that's the answer, right? No motor, no noise. Well, not so fast. While it's certainly the best option of the three, it is far from silent to the fish. Think about what you're doing. You are physically scraping, chipping, and stressing the ice. The ice sheet acts like a giant drumhead stretched over the lake. Every scrape of the blades, every bit of pressure you put on the handles, transmits vibration directly through that drumhead and into the water. It might not have the high-pitched scream or the low-end rumble, but it creates a series of sharp, rhythmic, grinding sounds and vibrations directly above the fish. It's a much more localized sound for sure, but if you're drilling right on top of them, it's still an unnatural and alarming noise. It's like hearing someone methodically trying to saw a hole in your roof. It's less of a sudden explosion and more of a tense, threatening construction project happening right above your head. Here's a simple way to think about all this. Imagine you're a deer standing in a silent winter forest. Now consider 3 different sounds. First, a high-pitched scream. That's our electric auger. Your head snaps up, you're on full alert, ready to bolt. It signals immediate sharp danger. Second, a deep, ground-shaking rumble that you feel in your hooves. That's our gas auger. You don't even think, you just run. It signals something huge and overwhelmingly powerful is coming. Third, you hear the steady, rhythmic sound of a saw cutting a tree branch right above your head. That's the hand auger. You might not run immediately, but you're going to be incredibly nervous. You will stop what you're doing, and you will be ready to flee at a moment's notice. You are definitely not going to calmly continue eating. None of these sounds are comforting. None of them suggest food. All of them put that deer, and the fish, into a state of high alert that is the exact opposite of the relaxed feeding mood we need them to be in. We've focused a lot on the sound of the motor and the grinding, but there's another invisible force at play. The pressure wave from the blades. This is especially true when you finally break through the bottom of the ice. That last moment of drilling creates a massive change in pressure. You go from a solid barrier to an open hole. All the ice shavings, slush, and a column of air get forced down into the water. This creates a concussive blast, a shock wave that radiates out from the hole. It's like a small explosion. For any fish sitting directly underneath or nearby, it's a sudden, violent physical jolt. We've all seen it on our flashers. The screen is clear, you punch through, and suddenly the bottom is filled with clutter and interference. That's the physical debris and the turbulence from that breakthrough. This final blast is often the thing that sends a slightly nervous fish into a full-blown panic. The key concept to wrap your head around is the difference between natural and unnatural signals. Fish are masters of interpreting natural signals. They know the vibration of a struggling crayfish is different from a healthy one. They can tell the difference between a school of shiners and a single wounded bluegill. These are the signals they have evolved to recognize as feeding opportunities. An auger, on the other hand, produces a signal that has no counterpart in the natural world. It's mechanical, it's rhythmic, and it's sustained. There's no animal under the water that makes a sound like that. Because it's an unknown, the fish's default programming is to treat it as a threat. In the wild, curiosity about a strange, powerful vibration is a good way to get eaten. Caution and evasion are what lead to survival. Your auger's noise falls squarely into the strange and powerful category, triggering their survival instincts, not their feeding instincts. So, how far does this danger zone actually extend? The video title mentions 100 feet, and that's not just a number pulled out of thin air. In many underwater studies, the effective range of these intense vibrations can easily be 100 feet, or even more, depending on the type of auger, the thickness of the ice, and the composition of the lake bottom. A hard, rocky bottom will transmit vibrations much farther than a soft, muddy one. A gas auger's low-frequency rumble will travel a greater distance than the high-frequency sound of an electric. Think of it as a circle around your hole with a radius of 100 feet. Every fish inside that circle has just received a clear, undeniable danger signal. If you're fishing a small community spot or a tight piece of structure, you may have just alerted every single fish in the area before you even got your lure wet. You're now fishing in a red alert zone. You don't just have to take my word for it. There is plenty of footage out there from guys who have dropped an underwater camera down a hole, then started drilling another hole just 10 or 15 feet away. The results are always the same, and they are dramatic. Before the drilling starts, you see fish swimming calmly, maybe a few perch or bluegills milling around. The instant the auger starts to cut, every single fish in the frame reacts. They either dart away at high speed, disappearing in a flash, or they dive for the bottom and become completely still, trying to blend in. There is no in-between. Not a single fish ever just casually keeps swimming. It's an instant system-wide panic. Seeing it with your own eyes is the ultimate proof. The noise we make on top of the ice is creating chaos in the world below, and that visual evidence is impossible to argue with. The fish are telling us, very clearly, that they hate the noise. Let's talk more about the fish that don't flee, because this is what fools a lot of anglers. You drill a hole, you drop your flasher, and you see a fish sitting on the bottom. You think, great, the noise didn't spook them, but you're misinterpreting the behavior. A fish's response to danger isn't always to run. For many species, especially in a situation where they don't know where the danger is coming from, the instinct is to hunker down and hide. They'll press their bodies flat against the bottom, tuck into the weeds, or get right up against a rock. They are trying to make themselves invisible. This is a fish that is on maximum alert. It is absolutely not in a feeding mood. It's in survival mode, waiting for the threat to pass. So when you see that fish on your sonar that just sits there and refuses to even look at your jig, it's not being picky. It's terrified. It's a direct result of the trauma you created just moments before. This directly explains one of the most common frustrations in ice fishing. You drill your holes, you get set up, and you see marks all over your sonar or flasher. You spend the next hour dropping every lure in your tackle box on their heads, and you get nothing. Not even a curious glance. This is that post-drilling lockdown in action. Those fish are there, but they are completely shut down. Their senses are on high alert for danger, not for food. They are recovering from the shockwave you sent through their environment. Often, it can take 30 minutes, an hour, or even longer for them to feel safe enough to relax and begin feeding again. This is why many experienced ice anglers will tell you that the best bite is often a long time after they've gotten set up. It's not a coincidence. It's the time it takes for the fish to calm down after the violent intrusion of the auger. You're not waiting for them to show up. You're waiting for them to recover. So, we've established the problem. What in the world is the solution? It's not to stop drilling holes. But we can be much, much smarter about it. The first strategy is simple. Drill your holes and then wait. Don't just drill and immediately start fishing. Plan ahead. If you're going to fish a certain area, go there, drill all the holes you think you'll need for the next few hours at one time. Get all that noise and disruption over with at once. Then move away from the area. Have a coffee, rig up your rods, talk to your buddy. Give that spot at least 30 minutes of absolute peace and quiet. Let the fish calm down. Let them forget about the earthquake. Let them get back to their normal routines. Then, when you come back and quietly start fishing in those pre-drilled holes, you are presenting your bait to a fish that is in a much more natural, relaxed state. You are no longer fishing in the immediate aftermath of a traumatic event. The second part of the solution is about your equipment choices and how you use them. If you have the option, a sharp hand auger or a modern high-end electric auger is going to be better than a loud two-stroke gas auger. But more important than the type of auger is how you run it. Don't just jam it down with all your weight, making the motor bog down and the blades chatter. Use a light, steady pressure. Let the blades do the cutting. A smooth, continuous cut is going to create less jarring vibration than a choppy, aggressive one. Shave the hole, don't punch it. And when you are about to break through the bottom, ease up even more. Try to make that final breakthrough as gentle as possible to minimize that concussive blast into the water. Every little bit of finesse you use on top of the ice will pay huge dividends in the calmness of the fish below the ice. Here's a final practical tip on how you can use this knowledge to your advantage, especially on a crowded lake. Pay attention to other anglers. When you see someone pull up to a new spot and start drilling a bunch of holes with a loud gas auger, watch where they are. Then, give it about an hour. Those fish on that spot have likely been pushed out and scattered by the noise. They often move to the closest quiet area that offers similar cover or structure. By positioning yourself 100 to 200 feet away from where all the commotion was, you might be setting up right in the path of those displaced, nervous fish as they regroup. You can catch fish that another angler spooked over to you. Instead of fishing in the dead zone they created, you're fishing the refugee camp. It's a way of thinking strategically and using other people's noise to your own benefit. So, let's put it all together. The noise from your auger isn't just noise. It's a high-speed vibration, a pressure wave that travels nearly 5 times faster in water than in air. It's a signal that screams predator or danger directly into a fish's most sensitive organ, its lateral line. The biggest takeaway here is this. We've been thinking about getting through the ice, not about what happens under the ice while we're doing it. The moment you start that auger, you're not just preparing to fish, you are fishing. And you might be ruining your spot before you even drop a line. This changes the game. It means hole location is only half the battle. How you create that hole is the other, forgotten half. It explains so many of those frustrating days on the ice. Thank you for sticking with me through this deep dive. I hope it gives you an edge on your next trip out. If this blew your mind, or if you've got a story to share about it, drop it in the comments below. I read every single one. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more tips that go against the grain. My final question for you is, after hearing this, will you be changing how you drill your holes this winter? Let's discuss.